Uh, my name is Kalyan, and I'm currently the president of Hindu University of America. And we are actually going through a process of reinvention and revitalization of this university. More about the university later. But the topic of today's conversation is the Citizenship Amendment Act and its aftermath. Now, I'm going to assume all of you have been following the news, reading a lot of material, a lot of discussion, some of it true, some of it partially true, some of it wholly untrue, right? Now, in today's webinar, we're going to take a look at a particular dimension of the CAA, a particular dimension of the CAA. We're not going to look at whether the CAA is legitimate or not. We're not going to talk about the politics around it. But a particular dimension of the CAA and its aftermath, we're going to take a deeper look at it. Okay, so let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, so it's titled Orientation to Hindu Studies, and I want to begin with a quick prayer. Om Sahanavavatu Sahanavunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavadita Mastu Mavid Vishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now, I don't know if you have heard about the American Academy of Religion, AAR. So on January 6th, they put out a statement. Okay, so I'm going to now share the statement with you. There it is. Can you see my screen? The American Academy of Religion. All right, on January 6th, they put out a statement. Okay, you can go ahead and read it on their website. It's called arweb.org. Read the whole statement there. But we're not going to look at the whole statement, but we're going to look at parts of it. Okay, so let's read the statement. Beginning a few days after passing the bill, the Indian police in a number of locations have targeted peaceful university protesters, especially at Muslim institutions. They have attacked students, resulting in more than 200 students being critically injured. And a petition condemning this crackdown has been signed by over 10,000 scholars and public intellectuals, many of them members of the American Academy of Religion. Okay, so we want to look at this as a narrative, a story that's getting built. So how is this narrative being framed? If you look at how it's being framed, innocent Muslim students versus brutal Indian police. That's the frame of the narrative. Okay. Next. While Indian scholars and students continue to bear the brunt of police repression, the passing of the CAA and the subsequent government reactions are, more generally, an assault on free speech. Blah, blah, blah. How it is against scholarly work, against scholarly collaboration, against professors, graduate students, undergraduates on exchange programs, needlessly endanger the scholars, and so on. So here, the narrative frame is the passing of the CAA was itself an assault on free speech. In other words, what they're saying is a democratically elected government passing a law with a majority approving the law in both houses of the parliament is in fact an assault on free speech. On whose free speech? someone's free speech. Okay. Next, the American Academy of Religion, the largest scholarly organization for the academic study of religion in the world, with over 8,000 members, stands in solidarity with the Indian colleagues and students who have suffered under these crackdowns, condemns the stifling of Indian colleagues' freedom to peacefully dissent, and urges utmost restraint on the part of the Indian security personnel. Okay, so the narrative frame is the police crackdown as stifling the freedom to peacefully dissent. The poor students who have been peacefully dissenting have been stifled by the brutality of the police crackdown. That's the frame. Okay, so now let's look at the one by one the petitions. The Jamia Millia campus, and so on. And on 18th December, the petition was signed. Okay, so here is where it says over 200 students have been severely injured, many of whom are in critical condition. It says. And you know,
Kalyan, we can't hear you.
Yeah, some technical error might have occurred. I'll just get back and just give me a couple of seconds. Yeah, let me just check back with Kalyani and get back to all of you. Just be in here and I'll check what's going on.
hello. Sorry, my internet connection just dropped suddenly. Apologies for that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again.
Here.
So here is the signatories to that, the solidarity statement. Okay, the very first person you can find is Romila Thapar, and on you can. There is Sheldon Pollock, Omi Baba, they're all from different universities. Okay. And indeed, there are 10,000 signatures here. Atta Pratim Chowdhury, Calcutta. You can pick out these names. Lalit Soni. Southern Illinois University, University of South Wales, in Sydney, and on and on. This goes on and on. This is a massive list. Okay, a massive, massive list. There are 10,000 people who signed, and they signed it within 3 days. Right? So all these people, they're saying, as teachers, students, scholars, and members of the civil society across the world, we are watching with extreme concern the situation unfolding at Jamia Millia Islamia University and the Aligarh Muslim University. Apparently, that whatever happened there is of such an enormous concern that 10,000.
I can't see your screen. It's just showing up as black.
Wait a minute.
No, it's okay. It's okay now.
Yeah, we are able to see.
Yeah, there might be an internet lag at the end, at your end.
Can you see it
Okay,
now?
that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, as you can see, right, there's a tremendous reaction to this, and very soon thereafter, there was a Wikipedia page that went up, and this is a massive Wikipedia page. You know, it is just goes on, and it documents what happened in December, day by day, chronology. Okay, it's on and on. And then it talks about the protests, and it goes what happened in Assam, what happened in Tripura, Punjab, place by place, day by day, place by place. It is what is called as a very thorough documentation of what just happened. Student organizations that are protesting. Here are all the organizations that are protesting. So who died in the protests? Okay, so the point is that there is an enormous narrative that's getting created, right? So this is the 10,000 academics and public intellectuals. But the central falsehood of this narrative is that the act bars Muslims from India's neighboring countries from the acquisition of Indian citizenship. But it does not really. It only pertains to the persecuted minority refugees and does not pertain to legal immigration. Right? You've got to make a distinction between legal immigration and illegal refugee type of immigration. But it conflates the two. Okay, so this is the first fundamental falsehood. And the narrative frame here again is people are peacefully protesting. We refuse to remain silent at the violence unleashed on our colleagues who are peacefully protesting against a discriminatory and unjust law. Okay, so you can see how this narrative is getting framed. A peaceful protest against a discriminatory and unjust law, police brutality, and so on. Now, there are many fallacies and obfuscations. The very first one is, were the protests so peaceful? Were the protesters so innocent? Was the law so unjust? Okay, so here is a fact. Between December 10th and December 2021, 263 police personnel were injured, 57 of them due to gunshot wounds. Here is at narrative. 263 police personnel injured, 15 obviously dead, 57 received gunshot wounds. Okay, so this is also part of the overall narrative, but you will not find that police were also injured in this reconstruction. Okay, so that is the very first point. Was the protesters so innocent? Well, Popular Front of India, an extremist and militant Islamic fundamentalist organization, has funneled at least 120 crores, $17 million, to fuel the CA protest, according to the Enforcement Directive 8. Okay, so here is that. In fact, Economic Times is hardly a friendly paper. Financial links between PFI and anti-CAA protests. This is coming out slowly. And who is the Popular Front of India? So the PFI and anti-CAA protests. Who is the PFI? There we go. Popular Front of India. This is what it is. Now, as you can see, again, that fact will not be recorded in this Wikipedia narrative because it is inconvenient, you see. Was the law so unjust? The suffering of minorities in countries that are Islamic by self-declaration is a real issue that is being completely sidestepped. Being forced to convert is a grave crime against humanity that does not seem to matter. So here is an article, Why Protests in India with New Citizenship Law, Much Ado About Nothing. There's another article by Sahana Singh on the condition of refugees coming from Pakistan and Bangladesh. There is another article, Bangladesh police suspected Islamists responsible for Hindu doctor hacked to death. It's another article. Okay. All right. Now, let's come back here. So on all fronts, was the protest so peaceful? Not really. Was the protesters so innocent? No, there was tremendous money behind it. Was the law so unjust? No, not at all. In fact, the reality in the background is the following. This is well documented. You can all find this information all over the net. So in Afghanistan in the 1970s, there were 7.7 lakhs Hindus. By 2017, there are only 7,000. In Pakistan in 1947, 15% of the population was Hindu. In 1998, it's down to 1.6%. Bangladesh, the population of Hindus was 22% in 1951. Now it is 9.5%. The question is, what happened to all those Hindus? And of course, the CAA does not address the situation of Hindus. It addresses many different minorities who have encountered the same problem. Now, in contrast, if you look at the Muslim population of India, it has gone in the opposite direction from 9.8% in 1951, 14.2% in 2011, which is the last census that was taken. There is detailed data in tables, and there is in fact an organization called Center for Policy Studies in Chennai, which is collecting data state by state, district by district. And this is well-established reality. The question is, why is this not front and center of the current conversational space? Why is this reality an inconvenient fact? And why do tens of thousands of academics sign on to petitions that are so obviously either one-sided or blatantly false? That's the question. Okay. The problem, see, we have a war of narratives that's going on. It's underway right now. There are three constituents in this war. There's an agenda-driven academia, tens of thousands of academics signing on to petitions that are half-truths, sometimes blatantly false, biased, poorly educated media, sometimes blatantly biased media actors, and a befuddled and ill-informed citizenry. In this narrative war, Hindus are always made out to be aggressors and villains, but everybody else is a victim. When in fact, the reality is almost entirely the opposite. The most important thing for us to get is in this narrative war, you and I are mere consumers. We are spectators. We are recipients in this narrative war. We are not participants. Right? Now, this is going on for a long time. You can see in this graph that the percentage of world GDP has been plotted over time from approximately 2,000 years ago to today, how India's GDP fell dramatically, while simultaneously the USA and UK's GDP rose. And it is in this period, okay, the period of colonial, hegemony, that the narrative structure got set in place. We were all born here, and a lot of us are just consumers of what has already happened. We are mere recipients. Well, there were great universities in the past. Over time, those universities they moved to England. Now they've come to Harvard and Stanford in the US. Of course, we have JNU in India. And the narrative structure is Hindus are always portrayed as aggressors and villains. There's massive distortion and cognitive dissonance. Hindu community is not in control of its own story and narrative. As I said, we're not participants in narrative building. We are simply recipients, passive recipients. Now, all of that material I showed you, the Wikipedia, the AAR statement, they constitute the official record of what just happened. And years later, people will read that and assume that's really what happened. And there is no other side to this story. This goes back many, many years. Here is a quotation from James Mill, who wrote a book called The History of British India in 1817. He published this book in 1817. You can see the full quotation here. And this book became the official British knowledge, European knowledge, the official statement of European knowledge about India, about the Hindus. Okay? And this book became standard reading material as part of the preparation of every European officer, British officer, who came into India and got posted to various parts of India as government officials, as collectors of revenue, and magistrates, and so on and so forth. The colonial narrative, very brilliantly articulated by Karl Marx. You probably all know about the Marxist view of the world. Might have heard of it, even if you don't know it deeply enough. So here is a statement. He says, question therefore is not whether the English had the right to conquer India, or that whether we are to prefer India conquered by the Turk, by the Persian, by the Russian, or by the Briton. England has to fulfill a double mission in India, one destructive, annihilation of the old Asiatic society, and the other regenerating and laying the material foundations of Western society in Asia. So he wrote this in 1853, believe it or not, and Karl Marx was somebody who never came to India. By the way, James Mill also never came to India. He sat in England and he wrote all this about India. Here's Karl Marx, here is Max Muller. Also never came to India. He situated himself in Oxford University as a professor of philology. And here is what he's saying. The translation of the Veda will hereafter tell to a great extent of the fate of India and how the growth of millions of souls in that country is the root of their religion, and to show them what the root is, I feel sure the only way of uprooting all that has been sprung from it during the last 3,000 years. The ancient religion of India is totally doomed. And if Christianity doesn't step in, whose fault will it be? And he was a Protestant Christian, a German Protestant Christian. So was Karl Marx. He was a German too. Contemporary obfuscation. Here are the two characters who have signed that petition. Sheldon Pollock, writing in 2001, here is what he has to say. Sultan Zainul Abdin, who had heard about her, Sharada Devi's miraculous presence in the temple, had hopes of witnessing an epiphany. He came as the pious devotee he was and begged to have some vision of the goddess in sleep. Sharada, however, gave no sign of presence. Instead, far from granting the Sultan darshan, the goddess made him smash to pieces her very own image. In fact, it was not his fault at all, poor fellow. He was a pious, he was a pious devotee, and he came begging to have a vision of the goddess. And this horrible goddess gave him no sign of presence, but she made him smash to pieces her very own image, which he obviously did thereafter, as so many other invaders, Islamic invaders, did across the length and breadth of India. So here is our Romila Thapar from JNU talking about the Babri Masjid. And the key sentence here is, the Hindu nationalism, it was in the name of Hindu nationalism, the Babri Masjid was destroyed by those antagonistic to its presence at a site that they claimed, was sacred to them, marking a temple to Brahma, even though the excavations of the Archaeological Survey of India and its readings have been strongly disputed by other archaeologists and historians. They have been disputed. I mean, somebody has disputed them, therefore it could be false, couldn't it? I mean, it could be false, it maybe is false, probably is false. In any case, how can you believe those who claim this? Right? So this is the narrative that's getting built here. There is a slow awakening, even though it's all muddled up and confused. There is a very slow awakening in the academia. And there is a recognition that in every field of the human sciences, the humanities, philosophy, theology, sociology, history, psychology, anthropology, religious studies, economics, many others, there is a prevailing understanding of how to study India and Hindu culture, what questions to ask about it, what answers to give to those questions, what to say and what not to say about it, and so on. This is received knowledge over the last 200, 250 years. And this received knowledge continually reproduces descriptions of India that transform it into an inferior and backward culture in comparison to Western culture, both through presupposition and inclusion. So this is the background in which I want to situate the question, why do we need to study Hindu studies? You know, after all, we have our family traditions, we have our mandirs and rituals, we have our gurus and ashrams. If we are so lucky, we are part of some religious Hindu sampradaya or community. Why do we need an academic study of Hindu Dharma? I mean, why not? Why not just keep going the way we are? Here is one answer. Okay, if you want basic knowledge of Hinduism, if you want to worship and practice, if you want some spiritual advancement and maybe even some personal transformation, right? These are probably adequate. Family traditions are adequate. Temples and rituals, ashrams and gurus are adequate. But on the other hand, if you want to participate in the narrative building, you know, or contesting the prevailing dominant narratives, if you want to participate, you've got to go into a whole another set of domains: teaching and research, therapy and counseling, writing and articulation, media, public sphere, advocacy, policy, debates. Okay, so in this space, you need a lot of preparation. See, mere exhortation, saying, hey, Hindus, you should wake up, you should do this, you should do that, etc., is insufficient because we don't have the preparation, we don't have the training, we don't have the development that's necessary to become a participant in this process. You know, as long as we don't have this as Hindus, as long as we don't have all this, we'll be content with family traditions, temples, rituals, ashrams, and gurus, but we'll be mere recipients in the narrative structure. We are merely objects of the narrative, not participating subjects. So what is the right approach to the study of Hinduism? Well, there are so many modern Western subjects. You could approach it from many, many different angles, many dimensions, you know, but every one of them is Western in origin. You know, you can look at Hindu Dharma through theology, through anthropology, through psychology, through philology, geopolitics. All of them are Western in origin. And one of the stark differences between studying our texts and our traditions as an insider, as a Hindu, as an outsider, is the questions we ask about our texts and traditions. So, for example, as an insider, we might ask, what wisdom does the ancient text have for us in our contemporary times? Does the ancient text have anything of value for us in our time? How do we extract that which is of contemporary value while disregarding material which belongs to a long bygone era? Okay, how do you get to the heart of what the text is trying to communicate, or what the tradition is trying to interpret from that text? On the other hand, contemporary academic methods of study asks entirely different questions. They ask, what does the ancient text tell us about the way people lived in those days? What inferences can we draw about the people, their culture, their priorities and interests from the text itself? Who wrote the text? Why did they write it? What social or political advantage were they seeking in writing it? And so on. As you can see, these are completely different sets of questions. You know? And whereas we ask these kinds of questions as a practitioner of the traditions, as we approach these texts and traditions through our sampradayas, gurus, acharyas, etc., academic study often gets stuck with these questions and comes up with completely different answers. And this creates a massive cognitive dissonance, not only for us ourselves, but also for our children and for generations to come, who will be reading all these constructed narratives all over the place. Here is a quotation from Swami Vivekananda. I've just added it for completion. Hinduism means expansion. Expansion means realization, and so on and so forth. Building up character, making for everything that is good and great. That's how he says religion ought to be studied. I want to introduce our Orientation to Hindu Studies course. It's a 1 credit hour course, 10 hours of classes, 20 hours of self-study. We give you a complete overview of all the programs, areas of study, and sample courses. We do lots of readings, read papers, we look at some videos, we get grounded in certain Sanskrit words and phrases. It will be taught by a number of different faculty members. And our invitation to all of you is to come and participate in this course. Take this course if you haven't taken it already. Okay, begin to develop some capacity for yourself in distinguishing what is real from what is not, what is true from what is false, what is made up. And perhaps maybe you can also be a participant in the process of narrative creation, narrative building. The cost of this course is $300 for a 1 credit hour course, but we're going to offer a discount for the next 3 days. If you register for the course in the next 3 days, it will cost you only $200. And I invite all of you who haven't done it yet, please register immediately so we can get this course off the ground. You'll be enrolled in an initial program called the Continuing Education Program, and you can continue to move on to other programs from there on if you wish. The course begins on April 9th and will go till June 19th, 2020. There's a 60-minute class on Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. CST, 9 p.m. EST, and 6 p.m. Pacific time. It may extend for 15 minutes if there's a lot of discussion. There's only a pass or a fail, there's no grading. There'll be papers to read and some videos to watch, maybe some short essays to write as you begin to develop some writing skill as part of this course. What is the purpose of our study? A formal, systematic study. So one, to develop rigor and depth of knowledge, to learn to explore and inquire, to do research, to articulate and engage, build some expertise and credibility, and who knows, in the process there could be a personal transformation, and we could also become instruments of making a real difference and impact in the world. Just a quick couple of thoughts and I'll close this and open it up for questions. As a human being, what are we concerned about in our lives? What is the significance of our lives? And really 99% of us are merely concerned with security and comfort. And when we are done with that, we want to have a good time. This is what in Hindu philosophy is called artha and kama. Right? But really, the beginnings of an awakening happen beyond these two. It's when we begin to understand dharma and moksha. And here is where there is a profound awakening that is possible for each and every one of us. We can awaken to a new intelligence, a new intuition, a commitment for self-knowledge, an integral understanding, and ultimately playing one's part in life, whatever that may be. And this is really what the study of Hindu Dharma is about. It's only when you come into the realm of Dharma and Moksha that the study of Hindu Dharma becomes relevant, immediate, interesting, exciting, and deeply transformational. What does study of Hindu Dharma really entail? It entails all this: inquiry, research, reading, investigation, exploration, dialogue, reflection, and so on. What it requires is some degree of freedom from already knowing. And this is a very great barrier. For many of us, we think we already know. And that constitutes a real barrier because that just doesn't, it just stops us from exploring what we don't know. It requires a willingness to learn and see newly, reconsider, reevaluate in the light of new facts. And our partial knowledge, I don't doubt that we all know a lot. We've studied a lot. We've done our own sadhana in some ways. We've learned from many different sources. But it becomes partial knowledge and often a barrier. And in an environment where people are simply making up things, presenting entirely alternate facts, alternate narratives, it is becoming worse and worse today. This narrative building process, which is completely divorced from the facts underlying the matter, right? And it is in this context that Hindu University of America has set up a critical vision and mission. I invite you to take a good look at it on our website. We've built up an entire curriculum with 4 major divisions: continuing education, undergraduate, graduate, and advanced studies. We've got a number of programs that we have launched. We've got a new board, new academic team, and we've started launching our courses. People have started taking our classes. We have several areas of study, 75 plus courses in on our website. You can take this study up if you're culturally Hindu or if you're not culturally Hindu. Okay, it doesn't matter. You know, no matter what your particular angle of approach, there is something in the curriculum for you which you could profoundly benefit from. And the Orientation to Hindu Studies course will go through 11 different weeks. We cover a number of different topics. Okay, and I can assure you, as you go through it, there'll be lots of aha moments for you when you come across something new that you never knew, or you knew incorrectly, and you'll have to revise your understanding. These are the course learning outcomes. You'll be able to explore the various options and trajectories available within the program, distinguish the central ideas and concepts that constitute the foundations of Hindu Dharma. You'll be able to inquire into and evaluate different elective areas of study, look at different pathways, create your own way of engaging with the curriculum. Okay? And as you develop your knowledge and skills and transformation, there are a lot of possibilities that will open up for you, which you cannot even predict and imagine how they may unfold for you. Okay? So with that, I would like to open it up for some discussion, noting that we have about 15 minutes, but we can extend for a little bit of time if you wish. You'll have to unmute yourself to ask a question. I'll open the chat window as well. Yeah.
Sure. Hi, Kalyan. This is Ram from Dallas.
Yeah, Ram.
Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very good, Ram.
Very great narrative. Yeah, I know everybody might want to comment, so I'll just be brief. Please feel free to cut me off if I'm rambling around. You know, I've been thinking a lot. And by the way, I look forward to taking this course. You know, we both work for the same organization. It may be tough, but I will. Thanks for that offer. On the CAA, right? And I've been thinking, believe me, I've been thinking about this a lot. And I want your perspective and maybe others on the following, right? If I cut through the chase and look at the narrative as you laid it out, to me, it appears that, and it goes to everything, that it is any assertion of Hindu pride. It doesn't even have to be against Muslims or Christians. It is the mere assertion of Hinduism or Hindu pride, or say Hindu grievance.
No, you can even say, see, Ram Shastri, you can even say Hindu existence itself.
Hindu existence, yes. And so let me tell you, on the specific CAA, I think when I analyze it, the core thing is that the idea that of Islamic, and I hate to use the word barbarity against minorities, should not be front and center, because that then gives Hindus. So if you talk to Romila Thapar, you see they will say, oh, we are not against the giving citizenship to these, but it should be for all persecuted. So what happens in such a narrative is that the fact that Islamists committed this barbarity goes to the background.
That's right.
And one last point. Take this latest example of even this movie Shikara, this is about this genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, right? It is exactly the same. Those who are, we should not talk about what the Islamists did. We should talk about peace and love, so they want to take that into the background. And last point is, when Western narratives, when they talk about Islamic barbarity, you see they make a clear distinction. There, they don't shy away from talking about Islamic excesses, Islamic barbarity, and contrast that with Western civilization. It is only against, when it comes to Hindu, they want to say that, oh, these are all equal. So, they do this to these guys do this to these guys. And that is the main opposition, in my opinion. I'd like your comments on that.
Yeah, so, you see, there is a civilizational ordering that has happened here. Okay. And, we have to understand how this narrative structure is getting built up. So there is the narrative structure between Christianity and the West, the secular West, and Islam. That's a different Kurukshetra. And then the narrative structure between, Islam and Hinduism. That's a different narrative space. So here in this conversation, we are talking about the process of creating narratives. That's what I want to leave you with, okay, more than anything else. Because, you and I as Hindus, we are not participants today in the process of creating our own narratives. We have become passive recipients. So that is the first and most important takeaway for each one of you. How long do you want to be passive recipients of somebody else's narrative about you? And that's the question you might want to reflect on as you go from here. Anybody
Absolutely.
else? Let's get some other questions on the table here.
Kalyanji, namaste.
Yeah.
I wanted to just highlight one aspect that I think about the CA is very ignored. In the K-12 education system, now that, around this time in at least high schools where schools are starting their India units, teachers tend to make references towards the CAA saying, oh, the Modi government recently implemented a very anti-Muslim agenda that's, whatever against what Gandhi stood for. So, being a student in the K-12 system, how am I supposed to respond to that, those accusations that, Modi and all of that?
That's right. So, the overwhelming nature of the narrative that is getting built up. It is everywhere. It's seeping into your schools, your colleges, educational systems, Wikipedia. It is so overwhelming. The framing of the Hindus as the villains and the Muslims and Christians and everybody else as the victims. So there is a structuring of this narrative. Who is the villain? Who is the villain and who is the victim? You see, and this villain-victim game is something very well understood in the educational, in the academia. Now, what can you do? Is what you're asking. My God, what can I do? Yeah, you're going to have a hell of a time. And our children and grandchildren are not going to believe you. They're going to believe what they read on Wikipedia.
That's true.
End of story. Okay? They'll write research papers based on what they read on Wikipedia. And you and I have no capacity to contest it. Unless you and I also become participants in the narrative generation activity. We used to write our own narratives. What is the greatest narrative in the whole world? Anybody know?
Ramayana and Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the greatest narrative in the whole world ever written. Okay, a single story, 100,000 verses approximately. We used to write stories like that. We just don't anymore. We are living in a post-colonial era, and our consciousness is so muddled up about who we are and our place in this world that we can't write. We are not able to write because, let me ask you this: why don't we write? Give me your answer. If you ask yourself personally, why don't you write and publish? Why don't you do it? What would you say?
I mean, generally, I'd say it's probably a fear factor. Like,
Okay, I'm afraid. That's good. That's good. Let's start there. I am afraid. I am very afraid. Okay, that means what? That means we have already been terrorized.
Hmm.
The object of terrorism is to make you fearful, make us fearful.
Hmm.
So when you're a victim of terror, you're already fearful. You're afraid of putting your name on an article and publishing it.
Hmm.
All right. So fear. Okay. What else? Somebody else. Give me another answer. Why don't you write? Why don't you take up the pen and start writing?
Kalyanji,
Yeah.
yeah, this is Satya. I'm sorry, I'm outside. I'm listening to everything.
Uh,
I don't think I have a fear problem at all. I just that
Okay.
I'm involved in so many activities. I don't
I'm busy.
have time.
That's fine. Satya,
No,
fine.
no, not busy with work. Busy with this work only, with the Hindu work only. Very few people who work,
Yeah.
and it's really so few activists working.
That's fine.
Taking up that is really what's happening.
Satya, that's fine.
Well-
Okay. I see. I'm afraid is one answer. I'm too busy
Yes.
is another answer.
Yeah, well, Kalyan, I would
one
say
more.
there is
This
no
Krishna.
returns to it. Unlike in the West, writing about Hinduism has, since we are relatively a poor country, a poor civilization, there is not that much returns. So people are concentrated with other worldly things, and whereas in Christianity there is more money in it, if you will.
Okay. All right. So I'll write if somebody pays me is what you're saying basically. I don't.
Like that, but yeah.
Lack
Somebody
of
else.
knowledge is another
Lack of
thing is
knowledge.
lack of knowledge.
Who
We
said
don't
that?
have enough information to really
Ah.
understand what to write, how to write. And we
Yeah.
think that the other people who are writing, maybe Romila Thapar or any similar people,
Yeah.
we think that they have so much knowledge,
Yeah.
we just blindly say they may be right.
Hello. Is that Krishna Kashyap?
Yeah, this is hello.
Yes, of course.
I recognize your voice, even though I can't see your face. So lack of knowledge is a very important, okay? See, I'm too afraid, I'm too busy, I don't have any knowledge, or my knowledge is...
No,
incomplete.
Kalyanji, I want to correct you. This is not busy about other things. Busy with so few activists shouldering so much burden, and most people just WhatsApp messaging, and they will say one Twitter, and they think it is done. That is the problem.
Correct. So today, venting on WhatsApp has become the only place of expression for Hindus. Anyway, so let's continue with the reasons. Any other reason? So there is,
yeah, one more reason.
Yeah, Kalyanji.
So I had me along with AGF had written an article up as a response to one article by The Economist, but we can't find a venue to publish it. So that's one thing we need to find as well.
Okay, all right. But there are, you have to find. See, there are venues which are not very popular yet, so you can publish. Yeah, that's a separate conversation. Okay, there are many. Swaraja, India Facts, a lot of places are there. But the point is, mainstream media, to penetrate it and acquire a space for the Hindu voice, it is going to take some effort on our part. Okay, let's move on. Somebody else? What is the reason? Why don't you?
Kalyanji, Narasimha.
Narasimha ji, yes.
So, it's not like we don't have writers. We are, a lot of our folks are writers and very passive. We can just write about religion and, all these temples, very passive type of writers, not of a cultural nationalism. It's more of a Hindu thinking. That sort of writers are very less. But on the other hand, the leftists and their media is all over. So we need more writers in that arena.
That's right. So when we start writing about Atman and Brahman and how we should give up everything and merge into the Paramatma. The Jivatma should merge with the Paramatma, and then all of this will disappear, right?
Let us not ignore the enormous work of Rajiv Malhotra ji, though he has some difficulty interacting with the activists sometimes with his personality, but he has done an enormous amount of work, and we cannot ignore that. It's a great work. I've seen Breaking India, read it. There's a lot of work in it, and there could be more depth in it, but we have to make use of the work that already exists. And we should not get carried away with his personality, because at the end of the day, he will be gone after 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. The culture has to remain. We all will be gone.
Yeah.
But
So
we have to keep it, take whatever we can get and move on.
Yes, Satya, we need lots of Rajiv Malhotras, not one. Okay.
I have another.
My question is, how about we, you and I, we learn to become, how do we produce the future generation of writers and intellectuals who can speak on these things and can articulate instead of becoming fans of one person? How do we generate more? Is it not? So, yeah, Rama Kunelji.
Yeah, I have another reason. Maybe inherently as Hindus, we tend to not bother ourselves with outward affairs, and we tend to be more inwardly focused. I mean, it's a mentality thing, and we are not confrontative as a culture in general to go about and start off something as blatant as that article, that Wikipedia article that you showed us.
Yeah.
There's no, we don't do such. It's not in our nature inherently. I think it's a cultural conditioning, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Ramaji. There is a cultural kind of introversion, if you will, an inward-looking nature. We want to look towards the Atma rather than outward into the Kurukshetra, you see. And but when there is a Kurukshetra, even despite our best efforts, can you avoid the Kurukshetra? That's the question. Could Yudhishthira and Arjuna, could they avoid the Kurukshetra? They could not. And therefore, see, today's Kurukshetra is in the space of narratives, narrative building, information, warfare. Even the politics of America is totally informationally driven. Two narratives clashing. Doesn't no longer matters whether it's true or false. Truth is the first casualty in this narrative building process. But we can build narrative around the truth. We don't have to commit any falsehoods. When the truth itself speaks for what it is, why not we learn some new skills and learn to write and so on. Yeah. All right. So
can I add over?
One quick comment. This is Radhika here.
Yeah.
I think our opposition should be more on, not on reactive side, but on proactively. We need to start doing it rather than react to what's already happening. Even there has to be focus made on the proactive basis as well, so that we are more prepared to put the content from this perspective even before the others have an opportunity.
See, Radhika ji, while it's a very noble sentiment that we should be proactive and not reactive, see, we are inactive, and the thing is, when how organized they have been to construct that Wikipedia page. Hundreds of people have been working on that Wikipedia page relentlessly from the day it began. Hundreds of them, all adding bits and pieces, contributing. So like a crowdsourced narrative structure, hundreds of people contributing bits and pieces. And by the time it's finished, it's so complete. And anybody who reads it 10 years from now cannot but think that's the whole and complete truth. Understand? And it is sealed forever. Why? Because there is no counter narrative. There is nobody speaking. So, listen, we have our work cut out for us. Okay. We have our work cut out for us. And there is a lot of learning here that we need to do. You know, a lot of learning and skill building, capacity building that we need to engage with. Otherwise, we just, what are we doing otherwise, right? We are mere passive recipients of what is going on around us. Okay, we are 4 minutes past 2 o'clock. We'll take a couple more comments and then this webinar has to be closed. But I do want to tell everybody who has not yet taken the orientation to Hindu studies course, please register in the next couple of days, 2-3 days. You can get a discounted price. If you miss it, it'll go back to $300. That price will be available till Tuesday evening. Wonderful. Any other final comments before we close? Yes.
This is Hargopal.
Hargopalji, go ahead.
So just only say I completely agree with what you said, and it's not. Only thing is, it's not that we are so passive as we used to be. I mean, the Hindus, because after colonization, you see, for the last 70 years, the political situation in our country was like in such a way that you see, we were not able to open our throat. Now the situation has changed, and even there are people, you see, outside India, like Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, you call. I mean, I don't like to name others. Likewise, so they are coming out, and even now in India, you see, there are academicians, you see, who are, I mean, maybe they termed as nationalists or Hindu terrorists or whatever it may be. But now, because of such situations like the CAA and others, now the patriotism are so-called, I mean, you see, they are also coming up. So now academically, as you said, like the Wikipedia and others, you see, of course, they are doing, because they already decided they wanted to throw mud. This is going on for the last few centuries. So we have to struggle. I mean, as you said, you have to fight it out. I mean,
yeah. So I see, Hargopalji. Yeah, there is an awakening. There is a slow understanding that there is something is going on that we need to participate in, and but the fog of misinformation that it creates, right, is very difficult for future generations to easily escape from. Yeah, let's move on. Changraji,
yes, going back to CAA problems, I have a feeling there was a miscalculation on the part of the administration. They expected, because the Congress, Mahatma Gandhi, Nehru, everybody supported the same thing. So they thought probably everything will go in smoothly. But then Amit Shah and Modi probably realized there are so much of propaganda going against it, and they didn't realize that in the beginning. And the Hindus already changed. I can see a lot of changes in my, originally I'm from one of the states which opposed CAA. And so I can see what is coming back from those places. It is going to succeed anyway. I don't see any that much of a problem now.
Yeah, so Changraji, we're not
why did you oppose CAA initially? Would you enlighten us?
Ram, just hold on, please, hold on. See, we're entering as the space of whether it was done right or wrong, how it should have been done, etc. We're not going to discuss, okay? Because they are part of a different conversational domain. What we're talking about is narrative building. And what it takes to build
I agree with that.
An alternate narrative. Okay, that's it.
Yes.
So there is the academic space. I want to sort of put an enclosure around that so that we stick to that space. Okay. Okay, good. Any other comments, please?
Kalyanji, Kalyanji, Kumar here.
Yes, Kumar.
Namaste. So I think the general feeling is that nowadays that no doubt we are busy and all that, but we don't see any threat. You know, people see that 5,000 years Hinduism has survived, and we are busy either in India or America here. We build temples, we go Sunday, come here. we don't see any threats.
Yeah.
So why if we don't have threats, if there's somebody not coming on our door with a gun, we will not come out and proactively work on it. We just watch here and there on internet and just react it. But you are right, our next generation are only looking at this social media and internet, and our own family members and children are kind of against this our Hindu philosophy and thoughts.
Yeah, correct. So let's see, while you are busy, hold on 1 second. So while you're busy, living our lives, while we are busy living our lives, going to mandirs and temples and all that, bhajans and kirtans and watching the stock market and football and Bollywood music and dance and all that, the narrative space is completely being captured, and we're not participating. That's all for us to recognize. Whether you want to do anything about it, it's your business. And ultimately, you may choose to say that, hey, as long as I am not personally affected, nobody has come to my house, my home with a weapon, why should I even care? And that is that kind of ability to put a little enclosure around myself and my family is one of the survival mechanisms that has kept us going for this long. But it cannot go on like this forever.
I would like to add one more thing. When you said about narrative, I have done many seminars for Hinduism in Christian churches here in America.
Okay.
And I faced some of the questions. Some of them we mentioned already, the lack of knowledge. I think I'm pretty well knowledgeable now. After retirement, I spent 6 years in continuously reading all the scriptures, translations in my original language, not the English translation. And I'm pretty well aware of what is happening, and I'm doing that now. But in your narrative, it is actually a writing or giving seminars. Do you include seminars in that category?
Yeah, so there is both. See, seminar. So what we are doing today, we are having a webinar. It's like an online seminar. Okay, we are doing a webinar. Now, this webinar creates some kind of impact. Okay, maybe there is a recording. Whether the recording will go out, I don't think it will. But ultimately, there is no physical readable record, much like I showed on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
That hundreds and hundreds of people have come together to create. And when you sign a petition with 10,000 signatures, okay, it creates the impression that whatever they're saying in that petition must be true. After all, right? 10,000 signatures.
Yeah, but I agree that, but many of the students here in American universities, they came from Pakistan, Bangladesh, not only from India. And those countries will do all the publicity against Indian. They are jealous of India's progress. That is the basic thing.
Well, that is that's one explanation. Okay, there are many others. All right, Sugandha Iyer, do you want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm a Bharatanatyam teacher here in the Bay Area, and I teach 5-year-olds through 40, 50-year-olds. So we do have these discussions of CAA constantly as the children are bombarded at school from various organizations, teachers, etc. I am very vocal about it by clearly making them sit down and understand, taking away some time from classical dance. I do teach them this also. My question to all of you is, yes, now Wikipedia has created a narrative. How about us trying to change the narrative? After all, Wikipedia can be changed by anyone. So instead of us sitting and accepting what Wikipedia has written, how about we put out a very visible narrative saying that this is what CAA is. P Gurus seems to be doing a lot of it. Maybe put a link to P Gurus also to help the Wikipedia understand that it is not what one person's narrative is or one site's narrative is.
One side. one side. Okay, one side has got hundreds and literally thousands of tens of thousands of people building that narrative. You see, and the other side there is there's just no activity. It's such extraordinary passivity. So, yeah, your suggestion is very good. People who want to do it should do it. Get together and do it and build some skills doing these kinds of things. Okay, that's another problem. How to write, how to do the research, how to collect information, how to assemble a proper narrative is another important area of growth. There are two participants who raised their hands. Who are they? One is Manan, I think, right? Manan, you want to say something?
Yes, I feel as a student, as a young person, I need a mentorship.
Yeah.
For writings.
Yeah.
We do imagine, a lot of us do imagine that we want to write something, but once we start, that's where we stop.
Yeah, I know. So we had to build this. Not only we had to build skills,
yes,
right?
yes.
But we also have to build confidence.
Yes.
Skills and confidence. Okay, and that in that environment of mentoring, what you're talking about, which is where we can learn to do something, make mistakes, improve ourselves, get better at something until we have entirely new sets of skills with which we can work with. That is part of what the Hindu University of America is here for. Okay, and believe it or not, we've not had a Hindu university for so long.
Also, I feel a lot of middle class people back in India, they do not know about information, how to build an information.
Yeah.
And they need to be guided through this so that the narrative would be stronger from our side.
Yeah.
As you said, WhatsApp is a new platform, but that's not enough. They need to be taking a step forward.
Correct. So, you see, so people are pointing out that it's not easy to change Wikipedia. Yeah, that's true. You're gonna, if you get organized and try it, you're gonna find out how tremendously hard it is to dispute what Wikipedia is saying, what the people already established. You've got this establishment versus the resistance, right? Empire versus the resistance. To put it in that frame, right? So there are certain contested topics where there is the empire's view and the resistance is not allowed in there. So that's something for us to discover and figure out what to do. But at the moment, all we are saying is we need to build skills and build credibility, build confidence before we can participate here. All right. Anybody else who's raised their hand who wants to speak? Otherwise, we will close on this.
Kalyanji.
Yeah.
This is Satya. Now, somebody said nobody is doing. I hope people are aware the excellent work Archana ji and others have done at Seattle in countering the Seattle city resolution on CAA, and they stopped 3 city council members out of 8 from staying away from it. So there is work being done. And the other question I had that was not answered is, this Hindu university, are you marketing, is it being communicated to the new age? I mean, we have a YMCA next door to our home. 50% of the classes are yoga related and meditation, and they all start with Om and stuff. And they even had a couple of years ago, I saw they had a yoga day where they were bhajans as part of the program. So there is a big following of Hinduism, which we don't seem to recognize. And Hindu University can also publicize about this classes there also, don't you think?
Yeah, surely. Yeah.
But and the last comment I want to make is what is happening in the West is a global mafia going on. The Jewish lobby, the globalist Jewish, who don't want India to become strong. All these Audrey Tashke, Wendy Doniger, Sheldon. I mean, these people are all Jewish people. And the lady who started the Christian yoga in a big way, they are being used as a friend, or they're actually leading it, according to some people, because the globalist Jews wants to keep the India on the boil by making sure that is used as a mechanism to keep India weak. They don't want India completely disintegrate. At the same time, they don't want India to be leading, become another threat like China is to the Western dominance. And especially when you take Western dominance, it is the Jewish community, the globalist Jews. I want to say one point is which is very important. No, but let me give one point with respect to CAA. With Will Durant, in his book A Case for India, he says wherever British were ruling the provinces directly, the Hindu-Muslim rights were a maximum. In the rest of the places, where whatever few, it was a very few. So you have to understand there is a global agenda on this Hindu-Muslim narrative, portraying again and again Muslims as the victims and Hindus as the perpetrators. Right. It is not just a Muslims thing. It is a global agenda, and that has been continuing for last many years, just like they do in Rwanda. They do the same thing in each civilization. So that we got to understand who the real, what the source of the problem.
Yes, Satya, that's fine. But, see, the question that we are addressing is around our own capacity to respond, okay, our capacity or incapacity to respond. So that's where I think we need to do a lot of work as a community, where we have to develop new skills and abilities, where we have previously been passive. I mean, we are very, very skilled as engineers and doctors and professionals in many, many spheres. But when it comes to this space of narratives, space of storytelling and building, somehow we have become very, very timid and fearful and not confident at all. And I think unless there is a large-scale change here, this cannot be easily. So what is this? There is a news that spreading that HUA is not taking stand and acting soft on Islamists. Okay, I mean, see, there is so much misinformation everywhere. It's hard to go and contest everything. All right. Shall we close on that note, or is there any other comments, last-minute comments? Okay, that's it. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating with your comments and engaging with this conversation. And for those of you who have not yet taken the Orientation to Hindu Studies course, I invite you to register and get involved with the university.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Namaste, everybody. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Kalyanji.
Namaste. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.